many educational webinars. It'll be the first of many educational webinars that we're going to be running throughout the year. I will be very clear, these are not sales-focused webinars. I am part of the R&D department, and so this is all about the education and the usage of Blackbird. First, intro to myself. I'm Jeff Krebs. I'm VP of Product with Blackbird. And on this call also is Ali Khan. And Ali is one of the support representatives, one of the extraordinary support representatives with Blackbird. And today's really going to focus on what we'll define as, I'll air quote it, entry-level features of Blackbird, but there's a lot more to it than that. So we're going to certainly go through the plethora of the features and functions. At the heart, I'll talk a little bit about what Blackbird is. Blackbird is a proxy video editor that uses a very clever video and audio format, codec, if you will, that enables you to edit video, audio, and manipulate graphic adjustments within a cloud environment. So with that said, what this is really going to define, it's all defined of how your staff is going to use this, the staff being the users, you folks. And it means that we could work with Blackbird in any environment that has network access. And you don't need a lot of bandwidth to work in Blackbird. Blackbird becomes incredibly useful with an entry level of 2 megabits per second. So you can kind of see a whole variety of screens over here, and some of them are representing different features and functions. So some honorable mentions include, and are not limited to, certainly live clipping, QC controls such as blurring, audio bleeping, closed caption workflows to social media and, video to social media and owned and operated websites. Certainly working with multi-camera, non-live and live content, which is a little bit rare, direct publishing to other non-linear systems, logging and transcription, and of course, Blackbird can accurately edit within any of these workflows, something that's slightly different. So what's the agenda today? We don't want to be looking at PowerPoint slides, so we're really going to dive into it, but I will give you a little bit of the agenda. We're certainly going to be talking about the look and the feel of Blackbird, the recommended prerequisites, and then we're going to get right into things like screen snapshots, not what you think, the magic of the right click and the wheel control over the editor. We're going to expose you to some hidden gems. We're going to also help you remove a lot of the repetitive tasks by trying to get rid of a lot of the mouse clicking in the environment. And then what I like to coin the phrase of, what a drag, but this is with an exclamation mark, and because it's kind of exciting what we can do. And then we'll talk about what we're going to discuss next time. Now, we're going to give you a little bit of the overview of the editor. So just very quickly, I'm going to leave this window over here, and we're going to pull up the editor, which looks like that. And I'm assuming you can see the editor. And this is it. This is what it looks like. One of the things that you'll notice is that we run in a web browser. It is ubiquitous access to content that actually sits within a web browser. So what does it feel like? What does it look like? Well, first of all, you can clearly see we have a source monitor, an edit monitor, and a timeline, but there's so much more to it. So let's load some video in just so you can get an idea. So this is proxy video. There's some archival footage. Let's get to something that has a little bit more color to it. There we go. So what's really interesting, in a web browser, we're playing frame accurately in this environment. I'm just going to make sure that you can see my screen, I'm assuming, correct? Yes, good. So there we are. We have access to frame accurate control in a web browser. I could certainly play through the content.
It only takes that, one little.
You'll notice there's no delay. I can play backwards.
To know when it does get more.
I can double speed through it.
There's no second.
Like that. So we have some pretty fabulous looking footage here. So it gives you instant access to this footage. Now, we're not talking about storage systems and loading a storage system that's sitting at the side of your computer. This is cloud. So if you think of Google Drive, what you use for spreadsheets and text documents, this is like that for video. So it gives you that ubiquitous access, shared access, and collaborative access to video. The rest of it is all about what can you do in this environment. So a couple things just to note, a little bit of housekeeping. It is proxy. We do collect all the metadata that's associated with it. What's really interesting though is when you zoom in, you can see every single thumbnail that is represented in this video, which is perfectly fine. But when you zoom out, it becomes really more, quite a bit more interesting, because now you can see where the cut points take place, if there are cut points, if a shot changes, if it zooms in or zooms out, the pattern becomes really, really obvious. So, so that's what the video looks like in the interface. Now, a couple of other things. We're going to expose some hidden gems. A lot of people don't know about this. Some people do. So this window down here, it looks like a timeline, but it kind of does 6 different things. You can see over here, this is essentially a view selector. Let's call it an app selector, because different parts of the application respond in different ways. So I could look at things like a storyboard view, a log view, the source timeline. Then you can get into the edit log, edit story, and edit timeline, represented by colors. So just super important to know that there are more things you can do in this environment than simply just basic editing or clipping. So we'll talk a little bit about that as well. But let's begin with some of the prerequisites. If you've never used Blackbird before, there's a couple of prerequisites that I highly recommend. Now, you can certainly use a mouse and keyboard, and that's kind of what I'm using here. There you go, you can kind of see it. I'm using a 2-button mouse with a roller wheel, which works quite well. You could certainly use a trackpad. I'm just not good at it. That's something that I'm just not so great at. So I like to have the tactile input of this. I also like to use a keyboard and keyboard shortcuts, and that's the other thing. The other thing is the screen that you see here. I'm just running this at 1920 by 1080. I would call that a minimum requirement, because you do want screen real estate and enough screen real estate. Now, that said, a lot of people who work on the system do ask, do we support 2-monitor or multiple monitor support? Well, if I could stretch a web browser to 2 monitors, or on a really, really wide monitor or a high resolution monitor, that's perfectly fine. So the answer is simply yes. And then the other thing that we do discuss is network. It's a cloud-based system, so you do need internet, but you don't need a lot of it. I could run very functionally at 2 megabits per second and then work up from there. So just to know that you do have that ability as well. So let's take a look at the screen over here. I'm going to show you something here, and you can open and close your toolbar. And one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to show you my layouts. Now, this is really kind of a very cool feature. It allows me to set the interface up in different methods. So if I let 8 tracks of audio, if I want to do some more advanced effects work with animation and time scales of animation, or I want to look at live content, or whatever it wants to be, I can save even vertical video, as you can see over here. I can save these different layouts. So, and there's screenshots that will remember everything, including what bins are open or folders, and what track layouts you have. So get to know the layouts. They're going to become your friend very, very quickly. That's the first thing. Now we're going to take a look at some content over here. My sources. There's a source. Okay, so in the source, remember we talked about multiple modes. That's super important as well, that you do have multiple modes that you can view in. So in the view over here, super important, we have story view, where I've pre-clipped some content. I have a log view, which has more than just shot name, and we're going to discuss that as well, because we're going to really get heavily into the data of what we're doing here. And we could also look at the source timeline, and you can see in this environment I even have markers that I can jump to. So that's just really important, that it's not just timeline markers, there's source markers. If you don't know how to add them, you can just double click on the marker view, and I'll say here is a new marker, and there it is. There's our new marker. So that it's as simple as creating time stamped markers. Now, what's really important is I've never saved a single thing. This automatically saves to the cloud after every move you make. So that's super important to know. When you're doing anything on the source, it will automatically save to the cloud. Let's take a look at this log view, because it's also something that's kind of interesting. So I have time span logs, but where are those markers? Well, I've actually created a unique column, and you will notice you can create a lot of column data over here. So if I want to see all the markers and I want to sort the data on the markers, there they are. I can sort on any of these. So just super easy to remember. Think of this as a spreadsheet, if you will, and that you can just sort and search through this content. And marking can't be easier. So if I want to, let's say I want to simply mark an in and an out on this range over here, and I'm just going to call it yet another great shot. Do that over there. Learn to type. You know, the joke, editors can't, they can't spell, and most of us can't type very well, but that's how you go and log. So I've basically just logged a range, and you can see the ranges are over here. Now, this can be as rich as you want. This content actually happens to have embedded closed caption. So complete dialogue and caption transcription of dialogue shows up here, and you can just jump to these points. Super easy. And I can hide and show these columns at will if I want to. So I can kind of make it as rich amount of data as I want, or that I don't want to. So super important to know that this logging view. We're going to talk a little bit more about logging, because I have my colleague Ali, we're going to do collaborative logging, or what we call across the pond logging. So he's going to be logging content in a little bit as well, and we're going to show you an even easier way of doing that. A couple of other things just to note in this environment, the ability to hide and show specific layers, and this is kind of interesting as well. So you'll note that you have that plus button over here, which gives you the ability to hide and show tracks that you don't want. A lot of people don't know that this little plus bar exists. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about the magic of left click and right click, right? Left clicking will do specific things in the interface. Right clicking, however, will do some kind of opposite and special things. So if I want to pull up this selector, that's great. If I want to right click, we'll do one over, add more video tracks. Left click to add, right click to hide. Left click to add audio tracks, right click to hide. So that whole right click and left click scenario becomes major part of the interface as well. There's a ton of that. If you ever forget what left click and right click does, you can hover over any part of the interface, and it will tell you some of the functions for left click and right clicking, as you can see over here. And if you don't like those help menus, you can just click away from them, as simple as that. Next, one of the other things I want to show you is that roller wheel. Certainly I can left click and right click to zoom in, just like that. So I'm left clicking, right clicking, but that roller wheel is magic. It allows you to have a smooth access to the zoom function. So it's just to know, play with the interface when you're inside Blackbird, because there's a lot of things you can do with that. So let's talk about some repetitive functions if you want. So let's say I'm going to put 3 or 4 shots together really quickly here, just to give you an example of some repetitive functions that can be removed. So there's 1, there's 2. Let's just grab something down here. 3. 3 is good enough. We can do anything we want with 3. So we have 3 different shots dragged over. Of course, I can drag directly to the timeline, or we're going to talk about some of those drags later. But some of those repetitive functions you want to remove. You just don't want to spend a lot of time creating them. So here's one. If you're, let's say you want to trim and you want to do a rolling trim. It's a lot of mouse movement to do this. It works fine. It's a non-destructive editor, and that's just wonderful. However, we can create these things called macros. And here's keyboard shortcuts. And I am going to show you some of my advanced macros. What are macros? Macros are stringing together a bunch of functions, as you can see over here. Here's one that we're going to do right now. I'll just find it. It's the Q and the W. There it is. We'll find it. Beautiful. As soon as I find it, there it is. And what I can do using the Q and W function in this case is I could find a frame that I want to trim with and remove the content where my mouse is with a single keystroke, just like that. I'm going to do it backwards now. Watch this. I'm going to say, I want to really edit from here and remove the content where my mouse is, just like that. Again, assign it to a keyboard shortcut and delete it. So what that did is that actually performed 5 functions in one keystroke. Another one, let's say you wanted to do a freeze frame. There's a good place that I'd like to do a freeze frame. A freeze frame would take about maybe 10 steps if you wanted to do that. However, in our environment, I'm just going to assign it to the F key, and immediately I created a freeze frame here. So how does that work? Let me show you real quick. We'll use the one, I'll use the freeze frame for an instance over here. Let's go take a look at our macros. So there's the one that I've assigned to F. And you can see all these functions are strung together, and it automatically creates the freeze frame using the editorial features. Same with the Q and the W. That's where I was able to do the rolling trim and remove the ability to do the rolling trim and set these macros together. So how do you create these macros? Super easy. So let's say I wanted to create a macro with the files window. I can just double click on specific functions and it strings them together at the bottom. And then I can just assign a keyboard shortcut. So if I assigned Alt W there, and you can use Alt keys, you can use key combinations, and you can string together a bunch of functions. So something that may not have been known before, we have that ability to string a lot of these functions together. That's the first thing. So that's macros, and I'm going to talk a little bit about how to find all of this stuff later on as well. So let's talk a bit about data now. Data for people who are logging content or transcribing content is a major part of the application. So if I took this shot in 4, remember we showed you this data over here. and how I can log. And if you, by the way, wanted to put in a marker in this view as well, instead of just the source view, you can just drag this time code number down, and I'll give it a name. We'll call it "Here is another marker." So you can create these marker points by just drag and dropping single time code numbers down to the timeline. The data itself always propagates to the cloud, as I said, and it makes its way to the cloud. The other thing that you'll notice over here is if I wanted to open up, let's say, the keywords column, you have other data over here. So if you wanted to put additional data in here, it's simple. You can also preload data through a drop down. So this is something else that you can do. And then finally, we have the ability to use keyboard expansions in this mode as well. So if I'm looking for the word festival and I don't want to retype it in all the time, I can maybe go into the transcription column. I'll type in the letters FE and it automatically fills with the data of festival. So these are tied to accounts as well. So these preloaded pieces of data, whether it be right-click data, whether it be preloaded data, it is automatically part and parcel of the account. So it becomes available to an entire team, something that's quite important. So let's talk a little bit about more logging, but logging in a super easy view. And what we're going to do is, let's say you wanted to do some live logging. I'm going to switch to my live account. Now, over here, we're going to go into use a story view, right? Now, here's yet another way of creating data and logging within the Blackbird application. Now, we have Ali, who's located in the UK, who is also going to start logging. And this is going to be collaborative. And we're going to log on the same piece of content. So we've loaded this piece of content over here. And to do this really quick, I could just mark an in mark. I can mark an out mark. I can give the shot a name. I'll call it a darker shot. And that's also logged. You will also notice in the log view, it's just another way of looking at the content. So Ali, if you can start doing some logging.
No problem.
On this.
I'll start that for us. Okay.
Yeah. And I'm going to keep logging, and I'm going to go interview clip. This is me doing it. There it is. Just tell me when you've logged something, Ali.
Okay, no problem. Okay, I've logged something for you.
There, and you can just see it popped in over here. So what we're doing is, this is collaborative logging. By the way, it's just two of us logging right now at this point in time. I see there's a lot more than two people on this call. If we're all logged in together and we're all working within the same pool of content, all of us can collaboratively log without building any other infrastructure except with your secure login name and password. So super important to know that. And by the way, if I'm logging in this view and Ali's in another view, do one more, Ali. I'm just going to show you this. There you go. I'm in this view over here. I see something's been changed. This cool little refresh button comes up, and the next clip just shows up in line. So if all of that makes sense, it really is a truly collaborative environment, which allows everyone to take part and be part of the process as well. And again, that ubiquitous access without building an infrastructure, nothing here but my room and my internet access, if that makes sense. Let's talk about the draggability. And again, this is some of the entry-level features and functions of Blackbird. Over these drop-in sessions, which I like to call them educational drop-in sessions, which is what we're going to do, we're going to show you more and more features as we go. And these will be posted in our YouTube channel, so you'll be able to review them. So let's close all this guy down now. There we go. There we go. We're back to the beginning again. And at first, you've seen a little bit of this drag and drop ability, but I'm going to show you this what a drag ability now. So let's, I'm just going to go into my Pres view. There's my Pres view. Perfect. I'm just going to reload another source clip over here. There's this first source clip I had. So let's talk a little bit about dragging. Let's say I wanted to look at more than a single clip. That's one clip. How do I know it's one clip? Well, I know it's one clip. However, the source view shows me this is one complete clip. That's not the way the whole world works. The whole world, the rest of the world probably works with hundreds or thousands of clips. How do we deal with that? Well, I could certainly, this is some Canadian guitarist, some video over here. And there's a single clip of this person, right? It's in a recording studio discussing some electric some pickups for the guitar. But what I want to do is I don't want to look at this a clip at a time. I want to drag an entire folder and look. Oh, by the way, it's asking me how do I want to sort it? Very logical question. And now I've just sorted an entire folder's worth of content and put it into the source monitor. So if you want to screen an entire reel of dailies or rushes, go right ahead, just drag and drop. If you do want to work with multiple bits of content in a single clip, you'll notice I can just drag and drop them, and you get these little cool little post-it notes over here, 1, 2, and 3, just like this. So you can, we'll close that down a little bit. So you could have multiple sources up if you want as well. So that's kind of what a drag part 1. Let's say I want to, I'm kind of interested, I'll mark an in mark and an out mark, universally accessed through I and O, and I want to just make a subclip. There's a subclip. Just drag and drop a subclip. If I want to drag and drop it back to this folder, just drag and drop it back to the folder. Just like that. You could, of course, and we'll be real quick with this over here, you can drag time codes. So if you want to drag it to the edit monitor, there it is. If you want to drag it back and match frame, there it is. If you want to pin a time code, you can pin a time code clip and it'll associate a time code with it. Just super easy. And then finally, you want to be able to drag, let's say, multiple log points. We'll do this over here. Let's go to the log. Perfect. And I'm just going to drag this back in over here, sorted in date order. And let's say I wanted to drag multiple log points. Do that real quick. Shift click, drag and drop, drag the entire based on text searches, or if you want to make an edit without actually going to the timeline, just drag that text right to a folder and you've created an edit without actually creating a timeline, which of course you can trim and do all those other things. And of course we can just drag it over to a publish point like that. So drag, drag, drag. There's a ton of features and functions. Experiment and play around with it. So with that, you can see over here, let's just go to the slideshow. If you're interested in more information on Blackbird, we have online video tutorials, just like this. You go to youtube.com/blackbirdcloud/playlists, and these are playlists, and each one's about 2 minutes long or less, and you can find your features and functions right over there. And with that, we'll go into some Q&A. So we have a question from Santiago. All the data like comments, markers, transcriptions can be written, read, and read as metadata fields in a MAM. We can export and deliver. That's actually a very good question. We can do XML delivery, and that can be read in a whole variety of environments. That's something you really should talk to our pre-sales guys, because they'll certainly discuss that. and the data can be created in specific user-defined metadata fields. And of course, that will be, that certainly could be file data fields as well that can be brought in through the files as opposed to unique data. And we could, of course, combine that as a final delivery. So with that, this is our short drop-in session. We promised a half an hour. We're 1 minute over, but I thank you very much for that. And the next webinar will be covering multi-camera, both live and non-live, for both logging, editorial, and delivery. So we're going to handle multi-camera grouping and items like that. With that, thank you so much, and hope everyone has a great day.